Princess Zirahel stood at the large window of her private room on her warship, the Celestial Talon. Her blue skin glowed softly in the starlight. She wore her battle armor even though there was no fight today. The stars looked cold and distant, just like her heart had become over the hundreds of years she had lived. No one on the ship dared to speak to her unless she spoke first. The Zentari princess had ruled her battle fleet with perfect control for longer than most races had been traveling in space. Under her command, the Zentari Empire had grown to cover 3 galaxies. Everyone feared her. Everyone respected her. And many males from powerful families and strong warrior backgrounds had asked to be her mate. She had rejected them all. The princess who needs no one, whispered the people of conquered worlds. The untouchable star, her own soldiers called her with pride and fear. A soft beep broke the silence. The door slid open and Commander Vex entered. She stood tall and straight, waiting for permission to speak. "What is it?" Zirahel asked without turning from the window. "My princess, our sensors have found something strange at the edge of our space," said Vex. Her voice was steady, but Zirahel could hear worry in it. "It's a ship we don't recognize." Zirahel finally turned around. "Show me." On the screen in the center of the room, a small ship appeared. It was unlike any ship Zirahel had seen before. It wasn't beautiful like Zentari ships or powerful looking like the warships of the Draxians. It was simple, almost awkward in its design. "What race built this?" she asked. "We don't know, my princess. Our computers have no record of this design. They call themselves humans." Zirahel felt something she hadn't felt in a very long time. Curiosity. "Have they answered our messages?" "No, my princess." They remained silent. In normal situations, any ship that entered Zentari space without permission and refused to answer calls would be destroyed immediately. That was the law. That was how Zirahel had kept her empire safe for centuries. "Capture it," she said instead. "Bring it into Bay 3. I want to see these humans myself." Commander Vex looked surprised but nodded. "Yes, my princess." 2 hours later, Zirahel walked into the ship bay. The strange vessel sat in the middle, surrounded by 30 of her best warriors. It was even smaller than it had looked on the screen. How could such a tiny ship travel between stars? A door on the side of the human ship opened. 5 figures walked out. They looked almost like Zentari, except their skin was different colors of brown and pink instead of blue, and they had no scales. They wore simple uniforms with patches on the shoulders. One stepped forward. She had dark hair pulled back tightly, and eyes that reminded Zirahel of the deep oceans on her home world. "I am Lieutenant Commander Olivia Reeves of Earth's Space Exploration Fleet," she said in a clear voice. Somehow the translation devices were working perfectly, which was unusual for first contact. "Why have you captured our vessel?" Zirahel stepped forward. Usually when she approached captured enemies, they fell to their knees or backed away. This human did neither. She stood firm, looking directly into Zirahel's eyes. "You are in Zentari space without permission," Zirahel said coldly. "Your ship failed to answer our communications. By our laws, we could have destroyed you." "We received no communications," said the human called Olivia Reeves, "and we didn't know this was claimed space. We are explorers, not invaders." Zirahel walked in a slow circle around the human. "All beings in the 3 galaxies know of the Zentari Empire." "We're not from your 3 galaxies," said another human, a smaller female with light-colored hair. "We're from a galaxy you haven't reached yet." This was surprising news. Zirahel had thought the Zentari had mapped all galaxies within traveling distance. "You will surrender your ship and all its technology to the Zentari Empire," Zirahel announced. This was also standard procedure. Any new technology was taken and studied, then used to make the Empire stronger. But the human named Olivia Reeves did something no one had done to Zirahel in hundreds of years. She smiled as if the princess had told a joke. "We don't surrender to tyrants no matter how beautiful they may be," she said. The room went completely silent. The Zentari warriors looked at each other in shock. No one spoke to the princess this way. No one. Zirahel should have been angry. She should have ordered the humans killed on the spot for such disrespect. But instead she felt that strange feeling again, curiosity, and something else she couldn't name. "Take them to the holding cells," she ordered, "and begin studying their ship." As the warriors led the humans away, Olivia Reeves looked back over her shoulder at the princess. There was no fear in her eyes, only determination and something that looked like Pity? Sci-Fi returned to her private room. For the first time in centuries, she felt unsettled. These humans were different. They didn't know to fear her. And their ship. Initial reports showed technology that even Zentari scientists couldn't immediately understand. She pulled up the security feed from the holding cells. The humans weren't acting like prisoners. They sat calmly, talking quietly among themselves. The one called Olivia Reeves seemed to be keeping the others calm. "Computer," Zirahel said, "tell me everything we know about humans." "No data available," the computer replied. Zirahel smiled. A completely unknown species with strange technology and a leader who didn't know how to bow. Perhaps her long, boring existence had just become interesting again. She touched a button on her wrist. "Commander Vex, prepare a proper room for the human leader. I wish to speak with her alone." For the first time in a very long time, Princess Zirael found herself caring about what another being thought of her. And she wasn't sure if she liked that feeling at all. Olivia Reeves was brought to a large room that looked more like fancy living quarters than a prison cell. The walls were a soft blue color with strange symbols that seemed to glow. There was a bed, a sitting area, and what looked like a food station. It was much nicer than where her crew was being kept. She paced the room, looking for anything that might help her escape or contact her team. The door slid open and Princess Zirahel walked in alone. This surprised Olivia. Leaders of conquering empires usually didn't meet prisoners without guards. "Your ship is very interesting," Zirahel said, sitting down gracefully on one of the chairs. "My scientists can't figure out how it works." Olivia remained standing. "I'm not surprised. Our dimensional folding technology is new even to us." Zirahel's eyes widened slightly. "Dimensional folding? You can bend space?" "Among other things," Olivia said carefully. She didn't want to give away too much. "Your ship is too small to travel between galaxies the normal way," Zirahel said. "It would take thousands of years, not when you can fold space like paper and punch a hole through it." The princess leaned forward. "You will explain this technology to me." Olivia crossed her arms. "No, I won't, and neither will my crew." Zirahel's face hardened. "I have ways to make prisoners talk." "I'm sure you do," Olivia said calmly. "But torture doesn't work very well. People will say anything to make pain stop. Besides, only Allison really understands the science, and she would rather die than help you conquer more worlds." The princess stood up suddenly. She was taller than Olivia by at least a foot. "You don't seem to understand your situation, human. You are in my empire, on my ship, at my mercy. And you don't seem to understand that some principles are worth dying for," Olivia replied. "Freedom is one of them." They stared at each other for a long moment. Olivia could see the princess wasn't used to being challenged. Finally, Zirael turned and walked to the door. "We'll see how strong your principles are after a few days without food or water," she said coldly. But the threatened punishment never came. Food appeared regularly. Olivia was allowed to exercise in a small gym. She even received updates about her crew, who were being treated well. What she didn't know was that Princess Zirahel was watching her through hidden cameras. The alien leader had become fascinated by this human who showed no fear. For hours, Zirahel studied Olivia's movements, her exercise routine, the way she carefully rationed her food even though more was available. On the 5th day, Olivia was brought to a large room filled with strange equipment. Allison Carter, her ship's engineer, was already there, looking worried but unharmed. "Liv, are you okay?" Allison asked. "I'm fine." "The others?" "All good. They're treating us decently." Princess Zirael entered with several Zentari scientists. "Your engineer has agreed to demonstrate some basic principles of your technology," she announced. Olivia looked sharply at Allison, who gave a small nod that meant, "Trust me." "Just the basic public stuff," Allison explained. "Nothing they couldn't learn from our scientific journals if they had access." For the next hour, Allison explained simple concepts about dimensional theory to the Zentari scientists. Olivia watched the princess, who seemed genuinely interested in the science, asking intelligent questions that showed she understood complex physics. Suddenly, a loud alarm blared through the ship. Red lights flashed on the walls. "We're under attack," a voice announced over speakers. Draxian fleet approaching. The princess's face changed instantly from curious scientist to hardened warrior. "Take the humans back to their rooms," she ordered, rushing out. As guards led them away, Olivia and Allison felt the ship shake violently. They were thrown against a wall as the lights flickered. That wasn't weapons fire, Allison said. That felt like a spatial distortion. They heard shouting and the sound of running feet. The guards looked nervous. Another violent shake hit the ship and part of the ceiling collapsed just ahead of them. Without thinking, Olivia pushed the princess, who had just returned, out of the way of the falling debris. Pain exploded in Olivia's shoulder as a heavy metal beam hit her instead. She fell to the floor, vision blurring. Through the haze of pain, she saw Princess Zirahel's face looking down at her with an expression of complete shock. "Why did you do that?" the princess asked, her voice strangely soft. Olivia tried to smile through the pain. "Just because we're enemies doesn't mean I want to see you crushed." The princess called for medical help immediately. Olivia was taken to the ship's medical bay, where strange blue light and humming machines worked on her injured shoulder and broken ribs. To everyone's surprise, Princess Zirael stayed in the medical bay, watching silently as the doctors worked. When Olivia woke up hours later, the princess was still there. "The Draxians have retreated for now," Zirael said. "They used a new kind of weapon that distorts space. It damaged 3 of our ships." Olivia tried to sit up but winced in pain. "Sounds like they might be developing something similar to our technology." The princess nodded slowly. "Which makes your knowledge even more valuable." She paused, then added, "Thank you for saving me from the falling debris." "You're welcome," Olivia said, surprised by the gratitude. "Though I'm still not going to help you conquer more planets." For the first time, Zirahel's lips curved into what might have been a smile. "You are a strange species, humans. You save your enemies and then continue to defy them." "We're complicated that way," Olivia agreed. Over the next few days, as Olivia recovered, Princess Zirahel visited the medical bay regularly. Sometimes she asked questions about Earth and human culture. Other times she just sat silently, watching Olivia with those intense violet eyes. The princess had lived for centuries. She had conquered worlds, destroyed fleets, and rejected the most powerful males in 3 galaxies. But she had never met anyone like this human who showed kindness to enemies and stood firm in her beliefs even when facing death. When Olivia was well enough to walk, she was surprised to find her door unlocked. A Zentari guard waited outside. "The princess requests your presence on the command deck," the guard said. This was unexpected. The command deck was the heart of the warship, a place where only trusted Zentari officers were allowed. When Olivia arrived, Princess Zirahel was standing before a large screen showing dozens of red dots approaching. "The Draxians are coming back," the princess said without turning around. "With a much larger fleet this time." Olivia moved to stand beside her. "Why show me this?" Zirahel finally turned to look at her. "Because I need your help." Olivia stared at the screen showing the approaching Draxian fleet. There were at least 50 ships, much more than the 15 Zentari vessels currently in this sector. "You need our help?" she asked, surprised by Princess Zirahel's admission. "I thought the Zentari never asked for help from anyone." "We don't," the princess said stiffly. "But the Draxians have developed weapons that distort space in ways similar to your technology. My advisors recommend we retreat and abandon this sector." "But you don't want to retreat," Olivia guessed. "Centauri do not show weakness," Zirael confirmed, "especially not to Draxians." Olivia studied the tactical display. "How long until they arrive?" 6 hours, Olivia thought carefully. This could be an opportunity. "I'll help you, but I have conditions." The princess's eyes narrowed. "You are still a prisoner." "Am I? Your door guards didn't stop me when I walked around the medical wing yesterday." Olivia smiled slightly. "Besides, you didn't say help me or else. You just said you needed help. That sounds like a request between equals to me." For a moment, Zirahel looked like she might explode with anger. The other Zentari officers in the room backed away slightly. But then something surprising happened. The princess laughed. It was a short, rusty sound, as if she hadn't laughed in a very long time. "Very well, human. What are your conditions?" "First, my crew is to be treated as allies, not prisoners. Second, you'll work directly with me to implement our plan. No ordering from a distance. And third, when this is over, we talk about a real alliance instead of conquest." The princess considered these terms. "The first 2 conditions are acceptable. The third, we will discuss after the battle if we survive." Olivia nodded. "Fair enough. I need to speak with my engineer, Allison." Soon Allison was brought to the command deck. When Olivia explained the situation, the engineer's eyes lit up with excitement despite the danger. We could modify their main weapons to create dimensional pockets, Allison suggested. If the Draxians are using similar technology, we might be able to turn it against them. For the next few hours, Allison worked with Zentari scientists to modify the Celestial Talon's weapons systems. Meanwhile, Olivia and Princess Zirahel developed battle strategies in the tactical room. It wasn't easy. The princess was used to giving orders, not working together. Your plan leaves the right flank exposed, Zirahel argued, pointing at the holographic display. Only if they split their forces, Olivia countered. But they won't if we make them think our center is weak. You don't know Draxians like I do, the princess said firmly. They are ruthless and clever. And you don't know dimensional warfare like I do, Olivia replied just as firmly. Trust me on this. Trust is not something Zentari give easily, Zirahel said coldly. Olivia sighed in frustration. How do you expect to win if you can't even consider new ideas? This isn't about trust, it's about survival. The princess turned away, her shoulders tense. For a long moment she was silent. When she finally spoke, her voice was quieter than Olivia had ever heard it. Every time a Zentari dies under my command, I feel it, she said. Our species is telepathically linked to those who serve us. Their deaths, I experience them, all of them. Olivia was stunned by this revelation. You feel them die? Yes, every officer, every soldier. That is the burden of Zentari leadership. Zirael turned back to face her. That is why I cannot fail. That is why I must be certain. Suddenly, many things made sense to Olivia. The princess's cold demeanor, her isolation, her reluctance to put her people at risk. I didn't know, she said softly. I'm sorry. It is not something we share with outsiders, Zirahel replied. You are the first non-Zentari to know this. The moment of understanding between them changed something. For the next few hours they worked more smoothly together, each listening to the other's ideas and finding compromise when they disagreed. When Allison returned to report that the weapons modifications were complete, she raised an eyebrow at the new atmosphere between her commander and the alien princess. We're ready for a test, she announced. But there's something you should know. This modification will only work once, maybe twice, before the Draxians adapt. Then we need to make it count, Olivia said. As the Draxian fleet approached, the Zentari ships formed up in the pattern Olivia and Zirael had designed together. The princess stood on the command deck, her back straight, her face showing no fear. All ships report ready, my princess, Commander Vex announced. Very well. Begin the battle sequence, Zirahel ordered. The Zentari ships moved forward. From the outside, it looked like a standard attack formation. But Olivia knew they were positioning themselves for something the Draxians had never seen before. Now, Olivia called when the enemy ships reached the perfect position. Princess Zirahel gave the command, and all 15 Zentari vessels fired their modified weapons simultaneously. Instead of normal energy beams, rippling distortions shot out, bending the very fabric of space around 5 Draxian ships. The vessels seemed to stretch and then fold in on themselves, disappearing into tiny points of light. It worked, Allison exclaimed. We created micro-dimensions and pulled them in. The Draxian fleet faltered, clearly confused by what had happened. But they recovered quickly and pressed their attack. Again, Zirael commanded. The Zentari fired a second volley, capturing 3 more enemy ships. But as Allison had predicted, the Draxians adapted quickly. Their ships began emitting some kind of field that protected them from the dimensional weapons. We need a new strategy, Olivia said. The battle became intense, without their special weapon working anymore. The Zentari had to rely on conventional tactics against superior numbers. Princess Zirahel's face grew more strained with each passing minute, and Olivia realized she was feeling the deaths of her people as Zentari ships took damage. Fall back to position Beta, the princess ordered. Her voice was steady, but Olivia could see the pain in her eyes. The Zentari fleet regrouped, taking a defensive position around the Celestial Talon. The Draxians pressed their advantage, surrounding them. They're preparing to fire their main weapons, a Zentari officer reported. Olivia studied the tactical display and had a sudden idea. The dimensional distortions we created are still there, just smaller, she said. If we could destabilize them, they would expand rapidly, Allison finished, catching on. But we'd need to get right next to them to trigger the destabilization. How close? Zirael asked. Too close, Allison admitted. It would have to be a small ship. fast enough to get in and out quickly. Olivia and the princess looked at each other, both realizing what this meant. "My shuttle is the fastest in the fleet," Zyrahel said. "But you can't go," Olivia argued. "Your people need their leader." "And who would pilot such a mission?" "You?" Olivia nodded. "I have experience with dimensional jumps. I know what to look for, how to trigger the destabilization." "It's too dangerous," the princess said. And to everyone's surprise, her voice held genuine concern. "It's our only chance," Olivia replied softly. "You know that." They stood looking at each other as the battle raged around them. Something had changed between them over these past days. Something neither of them had expected or fully understood yet. "Very well," Zyrahel finally said. "But you will take my personal shuttle. It has the strongest shields." As Olivia prepared to leave, the princess walked with her to the launch bay. Neither spoke until they reached the shuttle. "This plan of yours is either brilliant or suicidal," Zyrahel said. "Sometimes the line between the two is very thin," Olivia replied with a small smile. The princess hesitated, then did something completely unexpected. She reached out and touched Olivia's face gently. "Return safely, human. That is a royal command." Olivia felt her heart beat faster. "I'll do my best, Your Highness." As she boarded the shuttle and prepared for launch, Olivia thought about how strange life could be. A week ago, she was an explorer from Earth, excited to be mapping unknown space. Now she was about to risk her life to save an alien empire and a princess who had begun to mean something to her. The shuttle bay doors opened, and Olivia launched into the chaos of battle. The small craft was indeed fast and responsive, darting between larger ships as she made her way toward the first dimensional pocket. "Almost there," she muttered to herself. "Just a little closer." A Draxian ship spotted her and opened fire. The shuttle rocked with the impact, warning lights flashing across the control panel. But Olivia kept going, pushing the engines to their limit. On the command deck of the Celestial Talon, Princess Zyrahel watched the small blip that represented Olivia's shuttle with an intensity that made her officers exchange glances. Never had they seen their princess so focused on a single ship, especially one piloted by an alien. "She's reached the first dimensional pocket," Allison reported, watching the sensors. "Destabilization has begun." On the tactical display, the tiny point of light where Draxian ships had disappeared began to grow larger. The Draxians noticed too late. As they tried to move away, the pocket expanded rapidly, engulfing 3 more of their vessels. "It's working," Commander Vex exclaimed, but Olivia's shuttle was still too close to the expanding distortion. The Zentari watched in horror as the small craft was caught in the edge of the dimensional rift. For the first time in centuries, Princess Zyrahel felt true fear, not for herself or her empire, but for someone else. The small shuttle spun wildly as the edge of the dimensional rift pulled at it. Warning alarms blared inside the cockpit as Olivia fought with the controls. Come on, she muttered, pushing the engines beyond their safety limits. The shuttle shuddered violently. On the Celestial Talon, everyone watched the small blip on the tactical display flicker, as if it might disappear at any moment. "We're losing her signal," a Zentari officer reported. Princess Zyrahel stood frozen, her eyes fixed on the display. For the first time in her long life, she felt completely helpless. She had conquered worlds, destroyed fleets, and ruled an empire spanning 3 galaxies. But in this moment, she could do nothing to save one human pilot. The dimensional rift continued to expand, swallowing more Draxian ships. The enemy fleet was in chaos, but no one on the Zentari command deck was celebrating. All eyes were on the princess, who stood unnaturally still. Then, without warning, Zyrahel turned to her communications officer. "Open a channel to the shuttle," she commanded. Her voice was different somehow, less cold, less controlled. "Channel open, my princess." Zyrahel took a breath. When she spoke, her words shocked everyone present. "Olivia," she said, using the human's first name rather than her title or species. "Please respond." Silence. "The shuttle's communications may be damaged," Allison said quietly. The princess tried again. "Olivia Reeves, respond immediately." There was a note of desperation in her voice now. More silence. Commander Vex approached cautiously. "My princess, we should focus on the battle. The human sacrifice. She is not a sacrifice, Zirahel snapped. And this is not over. Then, to the astonishment of every Zentari present, the princess did something unprecedented. She closed her eyes and whispered, "Please come back." It was a plea, something no Zentari royal had ever made, especially not for an alien. Through the static and interference, a broken voice finally came through. Trying. Controls damaged. Need. Vector. "She's alive," Allison exclaimed. The princess's face transformed with relief. "Navigation. Calculate a safe path out of the rift and transmit to the shuttle," she ordered. "All ships, provide covering fire." The Zentari fleet moved with new purpose, positioning themselves to shield the small shuttle as it struggled free from the dimensional distortion. On the tactical display, the blip representing Olivia's craft moved slowly, erratically, but definitely away from danger. "She's clear of the rift," the tactical officer announced, but the battle wasn't over. The remaining Draxian ships, though fewer in number, had regrouped. Their commander had apparently decided that if they couldn't win, they would at least take down the Zentari flagship and its famous princess. 3 large Draxian warships broke through the Zentari line, heading straight for the Celestial Talon. At the same time, Olivia's damaged shuttle limped toward the flagship's docking bay. "They won't make it in time," Commander Vex said grimly. "The Draxians will be in firing range before the shuttle docks." Princess Zirahel faced a terrible choice. Use the flagship's energy to protect the incoming shuttle, or divert all power to the shields to survive the Draxian attack. "Divert all power to the forward section," she commanded. "Create a safe corridor for the shuttle." "But my princess," Vex protested, "that will leave our main engines exposed." "I am aware," Zirahel said coldly. "Do it." The Zentari officers obeyed, though many exchanged worried glances. Their princess was risking the flagship and everyone aboard for one alien shuttle. The Celestial Talon shuddered as it repositioned, creating a protected path for Olivia's approaching craft. The Draxians, sensing weakness, adjusted their attack angle to target the flagship's now vulnerable engines. "Shuttle docking in 10 seconds, an officer counted down. "Draxian weapons lock detected." "Hold position," the princess ordered, her voice steady despite the danger. 5 seconds. 4, 3. The ship rocked violently as the first Draxian blast hit the unprotected engines. Warning sirens blared across the command deck. "Shuttle docked successfully," the officer reported over the noise. "Restore full shields," Zirahel commanded. "Evasive maneuvers." But it was too late for evasive action. The Draxians had them surrounded, and the Celestial Talon's engines were badly damaged. The great warship could barely move. "My princess, they're targeting our command deck," Vex reported, her voice grim. Before Zirahel could respond, the doors to the command deck slid open. Olivia Reeves stumbled in, her face smudged with soot, her uniform torn and burned in places. She was clutching a small device in her hand. "The dimensional destabilizer," she gasped. "I managed to save it from the shuttle." Princess Zirahel moved to her side immediately, supporting her as she swayed on her feet. "You're injured." "I'm fine," Olivia insisted, "but we don't have much time. This device can create one more dimensional rift, but it has to be precisely targeted." The ship shook again as another Draxian blast hit. "Shields at 30%, an officer reported. "We cannot survive another direct hit." Olivia looked at the tactical display. "There," she said, pointing to a spot between the Draxian ships. "If we can create a rift there, the gravitational pull will drag all 3 ships in." "But the Celestial Talon is too damaged to move into position," Commander Vex pointed out. "We still have functional weapons," Zirahel said, "if we modify one to carry the destabilizer." "Like a torpedo," Olivia finished her thought. "It could work." While Allison and the Zentari engineers quickly modified a weapon to carry the destabilizer, Olivia and Zirahel calculated the precise trajectory needed. "The timing has to be perfect," Olivia explained. "Too early and they'll have time to escape. Too late. And we won't be here to worry about it," the princess finished dryly. Their eyes met, and despite the dire situation, Both smiled slightly. "Ready, my princess," the weapons officer announced. "Fire," Zira commanded. The modified torpedo shot out from the celestial talon, speeding toward the empty space between the Draxian ships. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, suddenly, a small point of darkness appeared, rapidly expanding into a swirling vortex. The Draxian ships tried to reverse engines, but the gravitational pull of the dimensional rift was too strong. One by one, they were dragged in, disappearing from normal space. The command deck erupted in cheers. They had won against impossible odds, but the celebration was short-lived. The celestial talon's damage was severe. "Engineering reports critical failure in the main power core," Vex reported. "We have minutes before it breaches." "Evacuation order," Princess Zyrahel commanded without hesitation. "All personnel to escape pods immediately." As the Zentari crew rushed to obey, Olivia turned to the princess. "What about you?" "A Zentari princess is the last to leave her ship," Zyrahel said firmly. "That's a stupid tradition if it gets you killed," Olivia argued. "It is our way." Olivia looked at her in frustration. "Well, it's not my way, and since we're allies now, your traditions don't apply to me." She grabbed the princess's arm. "So I'm staying too." For a moment, Zyrahel looked like she might argue. Then, to everyone's surprise, she laughed. "You are the most stubborn being I have ever encountered." "Thank you," Olivia said with a grin. Commander Vex approached, looking uncertain. "My princess, the evacuation is proceeding, but by our laws I cannot leave before you." Zyrahel looked from Vex to Olivia, then sighed. "It seems I am outnumbered." "Very well. We will all leave together." They made their way to the Royal Escape Pod, the largest and most secure on the ship. As they strapped in, the celestial talon groaned around them, systems failing throughout the mighty warship. "Launch," Zyrahel commanded. The escape pod shot away from the dying flagship just in time. Behind them, the celestial talon, pride of the Zentari fleet and home to Princess Zyrahel for over a century, erupted in a brilliant explosion as they drifted in space, waiting for rescue from other Zentari ships. Olivia noticed the princess watching the floating debris of her flagship with an unreadable expression. "I'm sorry about your ship," Olivia said softly. "It was just a vessel," Zyrahel replied, but her voice held an emotion Olivia couldn't quite identify. "It was your home." The princess turned to look at her. "Homes can be rebuilt. Lives cannot be replaced." Something in the way she said it made Olivia wonder if the princess was referring to more than just the saved Zentari crew. Before she could ask, Commander Vex interrupted. "Rescue ships approaching, my princess. They're led by the Stellar Fang." "Good." Zyrahel nodded. "Admiral Cora will provide suitable accommodations." As they were brought aboard the Stellar Fang, Zentari officers and crew bowed deeply to their princess. But Olivia noticed something different in the way they looked. At Zyrahel now, there was still respect and perhaps fear, but also something new. Pride, perhaps, or even affection. In the Admiral's quarters, which had been given to the princess, Zyrahel and Olivia finally had a moment alone. "Your actions today were unexpected," the princess said. "Which part? Nearly getting sucked into a dimensional rift or refusing to let you go down with your ship?" "Both," Zyrahel admitted. "But I was referring to your willingness to risk your life for my people. They were your captors just days ago." Olivia shrugged. "The Draxians threatened all of us. Besides, I didn't do it just for your people." The princess raised an eyebrow. "For whom, then?" Instead of answering directly, Olivia asked, "Why did you risk your flagship to save my shuttle?" The War Council chamber on the Stellar Fang was filled with Zentari officers. Princess Zyrahel sat at the head of the long table with Olivia beside her, a position that caused many raised eyebrows among the Zentari commanders. Admiral Cora stood before a large holographic display, showing the movement of Draxian forces. "Their main fleet will arrive within 20 hours. We count at least 200 warships." The room filled with concerned murmurs. The Zentari had only 40 ships in this sector. "What about this quantum disruptor?" Zyrahel asked. "Our spies report it targets neural patterns," Cora explained. "Specifically Zentari neural patterns. It disrupts our telepathic connections and causes intense pain. Olivia looked at the princess, remembering what she had shared about feeling the deaths of her people. It would be like torture for you, she said quietly. Zirahel's face remained impassive, but Olivia could see tension in her shoulders. We will adapt, the princess said firmly. There's more, Cora continued grimly. The Draxians have studied the dimensional technology from our battle. They're developing countermeasures. The War Council descended into argument. Some commanders advocated immediate retreat to gather more forces. Others insisted they should strike first with what they had. Through it all, Princess Zirahel remained silent, listening. Finally, she raised her hand and the room fell silent instantly. We will not retreat, she declared. This sector is Zentari territory and we will defend it. She turned to Olivia. Do you have any insights, Commander Reeves? Olivia studied the tactical display, aware of all the Zentari eyes on her. We need to target their command ship, she said finally. The quantum disruptor will be there, and probably their dimensional technology experts too. Their command ship will be in the center of their fleet, an older Zentari general objected. We can't reach it. Not with conventional tactics, Olivia agreed. But what if we could send a small ship directly there using dimensional folding? The room erupted in discussion again. Allison was brought in to explain the possibilities and limitations of such a plan. Hours passed as they debated and refined the idea. By the time the council ended, they had a plan. A small craft would be modified with Allison's help to create a dimensional jump directly to the Draxian command ship. Once there, a team would plant an explosive device designed to create a cascading dimensional collapse. Who will pilot this mission? Admiral Cora asked. I will, Olivia said without hesitation. No, Zirahel said sharply. All eyes turned to the princess in surprise. She rarely contradicted someone so directly in council. The mission requires knowledge of both dimensional technology and Draxian ship layouts. I will go. Now the council was in an uproar. The princess herself on a suicide mission? It was unthinkable. My princess, I must object, Commander Vex said firmly. Your life is too valuable to risk. The mission is too important to entrust to anyone else, Zirahel countered. After the meeting ended, Olivia followed Zirahel to her temporary quarters. You're not going on that mission, she said as soon as the door closed behind them. The princess turned to her with raised eyebrows. You dare to give me orders? Yes, I dare, Olivia replied, stepping closer. This isn't about orders or rank. This is about survival, yours and your empire's. I am perfectly capable. It's not about capability, Olivia interrupted. You're the heart of your empire. If you die, what happens to your people? Another royal would take command, Zirahel said, but her voice lacked conviction. But would they care about your people the way you do? Would they feel their pain and deaths as you do? Olivia asked softly. You told me that's the burden of Zentari leadership. Who else can bear it like you? The princess turned away, but not before Olivia saw conflict in her eyes. Then who? Who should go if not me? I should, Olivia said simply. I understand the technology and Allison can brief me on the targeting specifics. It's too dangerous, Zirahel protested, turning back to face her. That's exactly why it should be me, Olivia insisted. I'm just one human. You're a princess with an empire that needs you. You are not just one human, Zirahel said, her voice suddenly fierce. She moved closer until they were standing face to face. You are important. The way she said it made Olivia's heart beat faster. Important to what? She asked quietly. For once, the mighty princess seemed at a loss for words. Instead of answering, she reached out and gently touched Olivia's cheek. The gesture was tentative, almost shy, so different from her usual confident manner. I cannot lose you, Zirahel whispered. Olivia covered the princess's hand with her own. And I can't let you sacrifice yourself when there's another way. They stood like that for a long moment, the unspoken connection between them growing stronger. Finally, Zirahel sighed. We will find another solution, she said. Together. They spent the next hours working with Allison and the Zentari engineers to refine their plan. By morning, they had a new approach. The small craft would still make the dimensional jump, but it would be remotely piloted. The explosive device would be replaced with a modified version of the quantum disruptor they had captured, reprogrammed to target Draxian ships instead. This could work, Allison said, reviewing the final calculations. But someone still needs to get close enough to the Draxian fleet to launch the remote craft. It's too complex to automate completely. I'll do that part, Olivia volunteered. This time Zyrahel didn't object immediately. The risk is still significant, she said instead. But manageable, Olivia replied. I'll be far enough away to escape after launching. The princess studied her for a moment, then nodded slowly. Very well, but you will take my personal guard with you. As the Draxian fleet approached, final preparations were made. The small dimensional jump craft was loaded onto a fast Zentari scout ship. Olivia, along with Allison and 4 of the princess's elite guards, prepared to depart. In the launch bay, Princess Zyrahel came to see them off. She inspected the ship herself, checking every detail. Finally, she turned to Olivia. Return safely, she said, an echo of her words before Olivia's previous mission. But this time she added something new. Please. It was the word that struck Olivia most. The proud Zentari princess saying please to a human. I will, Olivia promised. As she boarded the scout ship, Olivia felt a strange mix of fear and determination. The mission was dangerous, but failure meant death for many Zentari, and for the princess she had come to care for deeply. The scout ship launched, speeding toward the designated position at the edge of the system. From there, they would be able to send the jump craft directly to the heart of the Draxian fleet. Aboard the Stellar Fang, Princess Zyrahel paced the command deck. This waiting was unlike any she had experienced in centuries of warfare. Before, she had always been certain, always in control. Now she felt something unfamiliar. Vulnerability. Draxian fleet entering the system, an officer reported. All ships to battle positions, Zyrahel commanded. Maintain distance until the signal. On the scout ship, Olivia and Allison made final adjustments to the jump craft. Ready for launch, Allison reported. Deploy, Olivia ordered. The small craft shot out from the scout ship, its dimensional drive humming with power. Olivia took control of the remote guidance system, her hands steady despite the pressure. Coordinates locked, she said. Initiating jump in 3, 2, 1. The jump craft disappeared in a flash of light. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, on the tactical displays of both the scout ship and the Stellar Fang, chaos erupted in the center of the Draxian fleet. It worked, Allison exclaimed. The jump craft materialized right next to their command ship. The modified quantum disruptor activated, sending waves of energy through the Draxian fleet. Ships began drifting out of formation as their crews were incapacitated. All Zentari vessels, attack now, Princess Zyrahel ordered. The battle was fierce but one-sided. Without central command and with many crews disabled by the reverse disruptor, the Draxian ships were easy targets. One by one, they were destroyed or forced to retreat. On the scout ship, Olivia was about to celebrate their success when warning alarms blared. Draxian destroyer approaching, weapons hot, one of the guards shouted. A damaged Draxian ship, its captain apparently immune to the disruptor's effects, was on a collision course with the scout ship. Evasive maneuvers, Olivia commanded. The scout ship veered sharply, but not quickly enough. The Draxian vessel fired, hitting their engines. The scout ship spun out of control, emergency systems failing. We've lost main power, Allison reported, her voice tense. Life support switching to emergency backup. Olivia tried to stabilize the ship, but the controls were barely responding. Send a distress signal to the Zentari fleet, she ordered. But communication systems were damaged too. They were drifting helplessly, their oxygen slowly depleting. On the Stellar Fang, Princess Zyrahel was celebrating their victory when she felt something that made her freeze mid-sentence. A wave of fear that wasn't her own washed over her. Olivia, she whispered. Without explanation, she ordered a full scan of the system for the scout ship. When it was located, drifting and damaged, her reaction shocked her officers. Prepare my shuttle immediately, she commanded, already moving toward the door. My princess, Admiral Cora protested. Let us send a rescue team. It's still dangerous out there.